It starts with a locked door. Behind it, in a centuries-old chapel steeped in incense and secrets, men in crimson robes murmur prayers under a frescoed ceiling. The world watches, breathless. But what really happens inside those marble walls when the fate of 1 billion souls is decided? What forces move unseen? What hands guide the vote? And who truly benefits from the outcome? The Vatican Conclave, a sacred ritual cloaked in reverence, mystery, and power. But the deeper you look, the more the lines blur between devotion and deception. This isn't just about choosing a pope. It's about control, influence, legacy, and possibly cover-ups that reach far beyond religion. And in this particular moment in history, those lines have never felt more ominously thin. What once stood as a citadel of moral clarity now vibrates with conflicting agendas and secret negotiations hidden behind centuries of stone. Because this time something feels different. From the very start, whispers circulated that the death of the previous pope was more than natural. Unconfirmed reports, uneasy glances, rumors of heart attack-inducing compounds, sudden medical complications, followed by an uncharacteristically fast funeral and an even faster move toward the vote. Cardinals flown in under the radar, a curiously muted press, and the immediate emergence of two powerful voting blocs, each backed by their own billionaire supporters and shadowy advisors. For the average observer, the appearance was calm. But beneath the surface, tectonic plates of influence were shifting. It's not just paranoia. Investigative leaks suggest that certain factions within the church had been preparing for this moment for years. Grooming candidates, manipulating doctrine, even influencing global politics in anticipation. The church has always had political weight, but this feels orchestrated. Quiet meetings in private villas, discreet donations routed through foundations with saintly names, drafted speeches prepared months in advance, tailored for a figure not yet elected, an entire infrastructure built behind the curtain, ready to mobilize the moment the white smoke appears. Whispers of secret retreats in Malta and underground strategy sessions in the Swiss Alps only intensify the mystery. Behind that curtain, alliances are being struck not through prayer, but through promises of wealth, of immunity, of silence. One report hints that a major tech magnate known for funding AI ethics think tanks is closely aligned with a group of progressive cardinals. Another leak claims that an ultra-conservative faction has secured backing from an international coalition with ties to oil conglomerates. Meetings have allegedly taken place in neutral locations, Zurich, Doha, Buenos Aires, where the church's political capital was weighed, measured, and traded like currency. There are even suggestions that intelligence agencies have taken an interest, monitoring communications and tracking financial flows from behind the scenes. This isn't fiction. These are names, real people, real deals, documents that surfaced on encrypted servers, memos, transcripts, screenshots. Each detail pointing to a convergence of interests so powerful, so carefully choreographed, that the spiritual theater of the conclave might just be a performance hiding the real election behind closed doors. Former intelligence agents turned consultants, tasked with logistics, PR firms on standby, ready to craft narratives the moment the announcement is made. This isn't divine guidance. It's campaign strategy at its most insidious. Even the timing of certain news releases appears to have been calculated to distract the public eye at key decision points. The symbolism is rich, a smoke signal to the world, white for decision, black for deadlock. But the real signals, the real decisions, happen via secure satellite phones, whispered exchanges during daily walks in Vatican gardens, and encrypted messages pass through loyal aides. The cardinals, by tradition, surrender all electronics. Yet reports suggest some had wearable tech disguised as rosary beads. Others received coded notes inside ceremonial books. One aide was allegedly caught smuggling a micro-receiver sewn into the lining of his cassock. And there are unconfirmed claims of a private satellite being used to beam live metadata to offshore servers. If true, this would be one of the most advanced covert operations in the history of organized religion. And why? To ensure the next pope is not simply a leader of faith, but a strategic partner, a controlled voice in a volatile world, someone who can bless war under the guise of peace, who can reinforce narratives, not challenge them, who can soothe the masses while quietly steering doctrine to favor economic and political interests that stretch from Washington to Riyadh. And the people? Billions place faith in the integrity of this moment. But that faith is a tool. A billion hearts moved by a name announced from a balcony, without knowing who pulled the strings to get it there. The applause, the cheers, they echo across the globe while the architects of the decision sip wine behind velvet curtains, satisfied that the machinery worked. Some say it is the greatest act of manipulation ever to pass for divine inspiration. What's more unsettling? The theological implications, or the fact that a religious ceremony might now be indistinguishable from a corporate acquisition. With so much money, influence, and ideology in play, can anyone say with certainty that the will of God alone is being served? Or is it the will of investors, of stakeholders who understand the value of a spiritual monopoly? Even charitable programs, seemingly benevolent on the surface, may now function as vehicles for laundering influence. Then there's the media. Normally, the conclave would spark a frenzy, but this time coverage is eerily measured. Headlines speak of unity and tradition, while burying anomalies in footnotes. When a journalist attempted to interview a cardinal rumored to be a frontrunner, she was mysteriously denied access and later claimed her phone had been remotely wiped. A prominent Catholic broadcaster was suddenly taken off air mid-segment. Official Vatican spokespeople issued rehearsed, sterile statements, dodging every meaningful question. Some journalists have gone missing. Others have abruptly changed beats. One was seen boarding a flight to a remote location after suddenly resigning. Some say it's all conspiracy. Others call it faith in crisis. But as more pieces emerge, the web only tightens. There are reports of offshore accounts tied to voting cardinals, unexplained spikes in donations to specific dioceses, sudden transfers of church-owned property in politically sensitive regions. Coincidence? Or the cost of allegiance? One whistleblower claimed to have seen a spreadsheet tracking commitments and deliverables, names, promises, expected returns. Another source described a secret back-channel communication hub dubbed PietroNet, allegedly used by insiders to coordinate across continents. And amidst it all, a strange pattern. Every major policy announcement by the Church in recent years on climate, on AI, on migration, has mirrored the agenda of certain political lobbies. Could the next pope simply be a mouthpiece, chosen not for his holiness, but for his willingness? A figurehead installed to maintain influence over billions, wrapped in the vestments of moral authority. A shepherd chosen by wolves. The conclave continues behind closed doors, but in truth, the outcome may already be sealed. The faithful wait for a puff of white smoke. The elite wait for confirmation that their investment has paid off. And those who know better, they wait in silence, watching the dome of St. Peter's, not for a signal from heaven, but for a sign that the curtain is finally lifting. And perhaps, just perhaps, they prepare for what comes next, a reckoning that may never arrive, or one that is already underway, hidden behind diplomatic smiles and holy rhetoric. Because once you accept that even the holiest institutions can be compromised, there's no going back. You begin to see patterns everywhere. You begin to ask, if the Vatican can be stage managed, what else in our world is performance? How much of what we believe is real, and how much is ritual designed to keep us obedient? What other sacred spaces have become stages? What other prayers have become scripts? How many symbols we trust are disguises for mechanisms of power? This isn't about belief, it's about power. And perhaps the most dangerous illusion of all is thinking we're not part of the audience. Because maybe, just maybe, we're also part of the act. And if we don't realize that soon, we may find ourselves not just watching the performance, but trapped inside it.